call the meeting to order. And the first order of business is I'll read the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which are Curve Lake, Rama, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. We acknowledge the shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original Indigenous inhabitants as the stewards of its lands, waters, since time immemorial. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt the agenda unless there are any additions? Moved by Adele, seconded by Liz. Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest or pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of the adoption of the minutes of the last regular meeting of October 11th, 2023. The county librarian's report, and Andrea, for the first one you did, it was excellent.
Oh, thank you.
And the circulation branch statistics with totals. And any working committee reports. Are there any questions on any of the items in the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion, please, to adopt or accept the consent agenda? Moved by Jen, seconded by Liz. Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll go on to the financial reports. And Andrea, are you taking us through this?
I don't have a lot to say. Things are pretty much still on track.
Okay.
Advertising budget is a little bit over, but that's because we've had so many job competitions that we've put postings in the newspapers for. Things seem on track. There aren't any surprises at all from the last budget that we reviewed together.
Okay. It looked fairly straightforward to me. Are there any questions on the financial report? Okay, seeing none, may I have a mover and seconder, please, for a motion to accept the financial report as presented? Moved by Cease. Thank you, Cease. Seconded by Lisa. Thank you. Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Now, any business arising from the minutes? I don't see any. Service Delivery Review Committee report. Who's going to do this? Jen?
So I'll just
Andrea?
And then
By the way, that was a fantastic report.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And thanks
goodness.
goes to Jen Dayu and Adele Espina and the whole admin team. We all pitched in and contributed to make it a fulsome, thorough report, hopefully. With all
Andrea, I was on a meeting with Adele and Lisa yesterday on another matter, and I congratulated them on the report, and they said it was all about you.
Oh, well, that's very kind. We've got lots of tips and pointers and suggestions, and the team did a lot of brainstorming around how much money would this actually cost. So the kudos are shared, and Tessa helped with all the accessibility as well. So team effort.
Do you want to go over the highlights of the report?
Sure. So in terms of highlights, Adele, Jen, and I met at the Stanhope branch about 2.5 weeks ago. And we took a look at the Ruplo 4th edition guidelines, which Chris distributed at the last meeting to those of you in person, and an email was sent with the document to all of you during the meeting. It's the one that looks like this. And so Adele, Jen, and I took a look at what the guidelines were in this report. So they outline standards for the types of library service offerings that have based on demographics, the number of people living in the community. And we looked at that in relation to sort of the Haliburton County Public Library's branches, but more specifically in Highlands East. That was the task that we were, Algonquin Highlands, my apologies. That was what we were tasked with at the last meeting, because we didn't include separate budget for staffing a Dorset branch. And if we do have a Dorset branch, we need to figure out both for the county and for Algonquin Highlands what those figures would look like and what the plan would be. So we thought about, we looked at the different demographics. We thought about what's already being offered in Stanhope, and put together sort of all the information that we thought would be relevant in terms of discussion and decision making about, putting a branch inside the new Dorset Recreation Center as it's being currently renovated. It's the perfect time to establish a library presence in there. So hopefully all of the information that will be relevant for the discussion today is in there. We've included the different population breakdowns. We've included if we were to make the branch, what we imagine the cost would be in terms of putting a collection there, what technology we would need, a proposed staffing model. And yeah, so we've done a lot of brainstorming, and now it's over to the board really to discuss kind of the vision going forward. Jen or Adele, do you have things that you'd like to add?
Jen, go ahead. Jen.
It's just a great report. And really, Andrea, I think you and your team have to take the majority of the credit for the report. We did some great brainstorming and that was fun, but the hard slog was you and your team. So kudos and bravo for putting it all together. The only thing I would add that isn't in the report is that the ideas that we brainstormed were also presented to the staff at Algonquin Highlands, just as a list of here are some rambling thoughts. What do you think? Do you think this might be able to be incorporated should the library board decide to proceed with this proposal? Do you think this is realistic? And they took the information we gave them favorably and said, we'll work on it and we'll get back to you. So while I don't have any answers from the Algonquin Highlands staff in terms of space or where it will be in the building or anything else like that, that information has been well received, and we look forward to getting their feedback should the library board decide to proceed with this.
Great. Adele, do you have anything to add?
No, well, just great thanks to Andrea for putting all our thoughts in such a readable format, and all the statistics that were added as well. As you can see, we in the Service Delivery Review Committee do recommend that a branch be reopened, and I'm hoping that what Andrea has put together will speak to that with the reasons for it as well. In terms of an ongoing budget increase, it looks like to staff the branch would on a $1.4 million budget would add about 1.5% to the budget to have a staff person there.
When we did the brainstorming, we talked about having 12 hours in Dorset, similar to we have 12 hours in Stanhope, with a minimum of 3-hour shifts at a time across 4 days. And so I took that information away and outlined 2 scenarios. So the first scenario is that we would pay a staff member just to go for those 3-hour shifts. And then another scenario where we would pair the Stanhope and the Dorset shifts together in a day, and then pay the staff member to travel between the two locations. So as we do in Highlands East right now, we pay a half hour of staff time to go between the branches, and the kilometer reimbursement at the CRA rate. So that's the two scenario breakdowns. We currently, our courier already goes to Dorset once a week to do delivery to the lockers. So there would be no change in terms of costs for the courier or the mileage or the gas for the county, the new van that we have.
Yeah, so what was very apparent right from the get-go was that Algonquin Highlands is an underserviced area in terms of public libraries according to the guidelines. When we looked at population, and that was only based on permanent population, not the seasonal population, we were well below 50% in terms of square footage, of hours, etc. When you look at the cost of running the library countywide per capita of population, we come in very well compared to other municipalities in Ontario. So it's not like adding 10 hours of a branch is going to bump up our per capita costs.
I did request the population numbers from Watson and Associates. They're putting together a report which they shared back in the summer with County Council, so many of you will have seen it. And they also presented the report to staff, and it's in draft format. It will go back to County Council in the early new year, but they did give us permission to include those stats, which they took not only from the Census Canada data, but also looking at housing information and other sorts of places where they can get demographic data. So to break it down for seasonal and permanent residents. So for each municipality, there is a different balance in terms of how many people live here like on a permanent basis and how many are more seasonal residents. So that's also indicated in the report. I did have one thing to add that wasn't ready for the time. I did reach out to Kathy Fairbairn, who is the CEO, Chief Librarian at Lake of Bays. And asked about the question, how many people are from Dorset are using Lake of Bays libraries in Dwight and Baysville. And so she took some time to figure things out, and she estimates between 40 to 50 people from Dorset do use the Lake of Bays libraries.
Right.
So that wasn't included in the report. I mentioned that I was that information. So that's the follow-up. So it's about 40 to 50 people.
Thank you, Andrea. What is the next step with respect to the board's actions around this? I assume we have to wait until Algonquin Highlands has decided on the space and the Dorset's rec center. Is that right?
I would think we as the board have to decide whether this is something we'd like to do first. Otherwise, there's no use Algonquin Islands.
I guess we better do that before AH gives us some space.
On page 3 of the report, sort of outlined a breakdown of things that the board could consider today. I don't know that it has to all be resolved today, but we've kind of broken it down into individual points that perhaps you want to discuss and come to a decision on. So the first one would be, so is everyone on board with reopening a designated library space inside the Dorset Recreation Center?
Why don't we
You-
take those one question at a time
Uh-huh.
and canvass the board, okay? So is the board in favor of proceeding reopening a designated space within the Dorset Center?
Absolutely.
I think you've got an answer, a positive answer there, Andrea. The board seems to be in favor of that without question. Paul,
now,
did
is
you-
it
Did
something
Paul
you
have a
want to-
question?
No, I just feel that the argument in favor are so compelling. There's so many considerations. There's so many benefits in the community, whether it's the intellectual, social aspect, the cultural community hub, the internet access for people who don't have that at home, or computer access for that matter. And especially if the area is underserviced and underserved in terms of the 4 hours, the incremental cost to the total budget is so small. We couldn't possibly not consider going ahead with it.
Thank you, Paul. The second item is to budget for 12 to 14 hours of branch assistance time per week. Over 4 days. Is that a fair statement? Liz, go ahead, please.
The only comment that I would make about that is that if you add that 12 hours to the existing 12 hours at Stanhope, we're still only served with 24 hours of service compared to 35 in Dysart and Minden and 45 in Highlands East, which I think is a little unbalanced.
Mhm.
I thought when we looked at hours previously that we had established a more equal balance. I don't remember there being a 10 hours more in Highlands East.
Yeah.
So if you look at 24 hours, Algonquin Highlands and 45 hours in Highlands East, that's hardly a equal distribution of service.
Adele, go ahead.
In coming with that figure, we thought we would more or less duplicate what was happening in Stanhope in terms of matching hours, etc. And also looking at it conservatively and hopefully putting forward a proposal that would be palatable not only to this board but to county council in terms of the increase in budget. But I do agree with you that more hours than the 24 would certainly be favorable.
Mhm. Jackie? Not Jackie. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Jen, yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
Great. Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely. I do appreciate that Highlands East has 4 branches, and probably that's why we're seeing such a big differential. But it would be nice to optimize what we can offer in Algonquin Highlands, being so underserviced. My hope would be, at the appropriate stage, the board may also look at, what is it about such a high proportion of seasonal residents that we could learn from and use in figuring out what our allocation would work best for branches such as Dorset. So even if we started with a core and then had an internal commitment to think about what does seasonal library service look like for seasonal residents, that might also be a way forward, so that we know that we're really optimizing the times those doors are open for the people who are coming.
So you're saying let's go with what's proposed, but keep our eyes wide open for monitoring demand on a seasonal basis.
If there's appetite now for increasing the hours from now, and if that doesn't change staff allocation to the degree that we need to hire a whole new staff member, which is not what's on the table at the minute, then great, let's go for that. But if not, I think my proposed balance would be to think about this seasonal piece.
Yeah. Okay.
Soon. Yeah.
Andrea, do you have any comments on that?
I think it's a really great point. I know we've talked about now with the new van going up to Dorset to do fun summer programming with children, summer reading club stuff, maybe something in the park outside. We we have proposed in the report, an approximately 750 square foot space, but with the hope that we would be able to utilize other spaces within the Dorset Recreation Center for doing programming. At the last meeting, we did approve an increase to the programming budget. So that is something that we can, we do have some additional programming hours that we can play around with as well for extra things that might come up to serve the summer residents as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and sorry if I
Go
could just
ahead,
add to
Jen.
that. Just for those who either weren't on the library tour or don't have in their minds the proximity, there is a little there are a couple of open green spaces extremely close. Like one is right across the road from the library, and one is just a few meters down the road from the library, where we could have any number of hours of open air programming that are still library oriented, and that could also draw kids and their parents into the into the library to look for their books after the programming. So there's a really beautiful chunk of flexibility there with those two spaces, especially in the summer months.
Good point. Thank you.
If we did aim for a 12-hour open hours per week, it is in fact more than what was open previously when there was a different iteration of the Dorset Library. They had 9.5 hours a number of years ago. So it does represent a little increase there to what it was previously. I think it's a great strategy.
Andrea, your report says 12 to 14 hours. What if we settled on 14 as a starting point? Would that cause any problems?
I think it doesn't cause any problems for us.
Okay.
The elected representatives who will have to,
Budget.
that's a budgetary.
Yeah, I recognize that, but a couple of hours is not a lot, but it makes a bit of a difference going forward.
I would, ignorant question. So does that mean increasing the hours of existing employees, or does it mean hiring someone to cover the additional hours?
So likely we would be able to cover that with our existing staff members. So the only full-time staff who work in the library are admin team members, and even Tessa is still part-time. So our branch staff are not full-time employees, so they vary in terms of the number of hours that they work per week in general, and they work at different locations as well. So we do have more staff who live around Dysart, around Minden, and in the Stanhope area. So whereas it is a barrier for a number of staff to come from, say, Minden to do shifts in Highland East because of the travel time, it wouldn't be as much of a to drive to Dorset.
So it is adding hours for those.
It would be adding hours, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that ends, so it's an increase in a budget ask for staffing.
Okay, then let's say 14 hours. That doesn't seem to be an issue. The next item on that list is asking Algonquin Highlands to set aside 750 square feet in the Dorset Center. Are we okay to ask that as a board? I would think so. Okay, thank you.
Does that, kind of turn a question, does that seem reasonable? 750 square feet, is that?
Not an awful lot of space. But if you think it's enough from a library's operating point of view, then that's where we should take our guidance from. Adele?
I think we thought it was enough space, given that we were within the Dorset Recreation Center, so that perhaps programming could be done outside of the four walls of those 750 square feet.
Yeah. In downtown Toronto, people have paid $2 or $3 million for that to live in. Jen, go ahead. Sorry.
So just as a note to the board, when I was in touch with the Algonquin Highlands staff about 750 square feet. I did not mention at that time that we may request using other spaces within the Dorset Rec Center for programming. So that's although they haven't agreed to anything on the 750 either, just to note that this programming would be a brand new idea. So
no, I think that's a great idea. Liz, you're on mute, Liz.
I'm just wondering, Jen and I both can easily visualize the space that's being proposed in the Dorset Rec Center, and it is fully accessible. It's got sort of not a lift of sorts. Did anybody say, or did you look at, or find out what the square footage of that room was?
Jen?
Are you looking at me? Yeah. So from what from our last council meeting, when we inquired on this space, all we were told was to keep things nice and surprising, that they are working on a good plan. But beyond that, no details have been offered, at least not to me. So I don't have anything to say.
Okay. I have a question. When is the center due to open?
That is a good question. We're hoping in January.
Oh, great.
But we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So far, construction is on schedule, and we're kind of contemplating a bit of a grand opening, hopefully for Dorset Snowball.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we'll ask for the 750 square feet. The next one is moving the library lockers to an underserviced area. Jen?
Sorry, David, may I also just recommend that in that we flag the idea of being flexible and hopefully using other spaces if they're available, just so that they know officially that that's kind of in the cards for us. They're definitely going to want to know.
Okay, Andrea, you could work that into the material. I think that's a really good idea. One time in my career, and you'll find this very strange, we used to build schools and libraries beside each other, and community centers beside, not further down the road. And we finally one day decided that we smartened up a little bit and built a school, a community center, and a library on the same piece of property, interconnected. So you could walk between them. And this is a great idea, integrating a library into a community center. Fantastic. We were a little slower than you guys are in Mississauga, so. Okay. We okay in moving we'll leave the staff to choose an underserviced area for moving the lockers. Okay, good with that. And the last one is using a portion of our reserves to assist Algonquin Highlands with the purchase of branch furnishings. Are we okay with that? Certainly we're going to have to buy books and desks and all that other stuff for this. Andrea?
I did follow up with Andrea Robinson from the county, and she did a check on Monday, November the 6th. And she noted that there was $214,344.59 that are unallocated in our reserves budget as of November 6th. Also in the report,
did you say $248,000?
114.
Wow.
Yeah, 214.
I didn't realize it was that large.
Nice. We did also do some brainstorming about possible other sources of funding. So obviously the county and Algonquin Highlands would need to contribute, but there are requests that we could approach the Friends of the Library. In our committee meeting, we discussed the Snowball Carnival and launching some sort of fundraising campaign at that event for people who live in the area in particular to do some fundraising. So there are other potential sources of funding such as development charges and trillium grants, and we didn't do a lot of research as we were just, seeing if this idea is going to float before we go down any wormholes. But we can, if the board requests us to do so, we can investigate other options as well.
It sounds, Liz.
I'm just wondering if HCDC might be a bit of a source of funding to help reestablish the library there.
Good
When
point.
it comes to, the furnishings. I'm just kind of thinking like whatever we can put on the table as far as additional funding would be great. I suspect that we're going to have some tough conversations about budgets this year.
Yeah.
I see the expression on Lisa's face. We heard a little bit about that this morning at county council. So whatever we could do to show that there were funds coming from other areas. That
Liz, I think that's a great idea. The HCDC has a community economic development fund. Small grants. They're about $5,000 maximum grants, but $5,000 will go a long way to helping us out. I'll
buy furniture.
Yep, I'll personally keep an eye on that, even though I'm not on the board anymore. But I will touch base with the staff there and see if they can put a smile on our face as we go forward on that. Good point, Jen.
Question for Liz, actually. Liz, do you have any comments or thoughts on what we would need in Algonquin Highlands in the run-up to budget if we are contributing? What level of detail is appropriated and when for our own budgeting purposes?
Well, we probably need to have some pretty good detail, sort of what the breakdown would be. I mean, we're looking at the county, the library's reserve fund. I expect that we might get a bit of an argument about how much money that might be spent to get the space ready within the Dorset Rec Center, and to ask for equipment and furniture at the same time might be tough. If we don't have other supporting information behind that. But I think we need a better breakdown than what's here.
Okay. Okay. Paul, you have your hand up. Sorry, go ahead.
I just had a question as far as procurement of assets, like the furniture side of things. Is there a standard approach or a standard agreement that's followed, or is it ad hoc per location, per township? I'm just curious if that helps with the discussion on acquiring the assets required.
We do have we do have a county procurement policy, and we actually have it's a relatively new position, someone who handles procurement, so we would use her definitely as a resource. I can't speak to Algonquin Highlands if you follow the county policies or
it isn't so much that, sorry, but the relationship as to who buys what.
Why don't we let Liz answer that, because she's probably got the answer.
I'm not sure I do have the answer, although I thought that there was some policy within the library system that that the municipalities provide the building, and the library provides. I'm not sure exactly what, but I thought that there was a policy that kind of detailed that.
I actually think that the municipality owns the furniture as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's furniture that each individual municipality provides. Liv. Sorry, I've got dogs barking here.
Yeah, I remember when we were buying new chairs for the Dysart branch, that the Dysart Council had some money left over from a fundraising event, and we allocated, or the county or the council allocated that money towards the new chairs in the Dysart branch. Okay. Adele, sorry, I didn't.
Adele's got her hand.
Yeah, I think when we were brainstorming, I think maybe both of you will agree with me that we were looking also at being flexible in terms of the policy of who pays for what, so that it would be palatable to the township of Algonquin Highlands as well, considering that there is what I consider to be a fair amount of library reserves, and that if necessary, then of course it would be up to the board whether the board want to assist with things that the township would normally pay for according to policy.
Yeah. Yeah, Liz?
Yeah, thanks for that, Adele. It was something that I was going to suggest, that I know that particularly if you're going to ask the county for additional funds, that they will definitely bring up the thought that there is a substantial reserve. And the reserve is something that's fairly new over the last couple of years for the library board. I think it's only been for a very short number of years that we've actually had a healthy reserve. So, you know, that might be a way of mitigating arguments at the county level about, you know, how we're going to afford to get things in place.
Good point, Liz. Thank you. Okay, I think we've got, oh, Paul?
One other point, and that was on the acquiring of those assets. If it's the Friends of the Library or some other grantsmanship that could be pursued besides what David was suggesting, maybe that helps make everything that much more attractive and appetizing towards the reopening.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, I think we have got a consensus that we'd like to move forward on this, and we'll make the formal request. Do you want a motion on this, or is this just some direction? Is that okay, Melanie?
So I think there should be a motion, and I've written one. So I don't typically write them. So if you guys could help me that are more experienced, but I wrote, be it resolved that the Haliburton County Public Library Board agrees to request from the Algonquin Highlands Township a space of 750 square foot in the Dorset Rec Center as library space, and that the total hours of operation be 14 hours. I don't know if I did that right. Lisa, you know better than I do.
I would just add to that your per week, just so that we're not assuming it's per month or anything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also, Janet, I'll take some guidance for you on this. Do you want that motion around the square footage specifically to include potential use of other spaces for programming? Might as well make that ask all at the same time.
Yeah.
Liz, can I defer to you on that one?
Sure.
Okay.
I think that you know, it's going to be a reasonable ask in the first place, asking for the 750 square feet.
Yeah.
But that, you know, that there would be a consideration given from time to time for use of alternate space for programming purposes, if possible. Something that's a little bit
general like that would work. Okay, just might as well get that on the table early on so that everybody knows that that's what's being contemplated.
Okay.
And do we need anything in the motion about approaching Algonquin Highlands for some funding?
Oh, for funding? Okay. Furthermore, the Haliburton County Public Library Board agrees.
Yeah. To use a portion of our reserves to assist Algonquin Highlands with the purchase of branch furnishings, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I will make this pretty tomorrow for you to sign, but
you can pretty that up. You can pretty that up. Tomorrow. Okay, can I have a mover for that, please, then? Moved by Jennifer, seconded by Lisa. We got the two powers that be there. We've got the county and the township. Anybody opposed to this motion? Seeing none, motion is carried. Congratulations. This has been a great piece of work, and all of you who worked on it have done a great job. It's very seldom you see a document like this that is this well done. It's really, really enlightening. Thank you very much.
And if I might add, sorry, go ahead, Liz.
I was just going to say this will make the folks in Dorset over the moon, you know, to realize that they're going to get a library service back, or that there's a good opportunity. Actually, I sort of let that slip to someone that's from the area yesterday, and they're really excited about even the very thought that it might happen. So, this is really good.
And
Excellent.
I just love that we are reopening a library. How often do you hear these days of a library that is opening or reopening? It's almost
Yes.
never. And here we are doing it in Haliburton County, in little old Dorset. It's just the most wonderful piece of news. Really is wonderful. So thank you, everybody, for your support.
Great
I thought
job.
the same thing. It was not very often you get to hear of something reopening, right? That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Very happy for them.
Yeah, been a long time coming, and it's well deserved. Okay, that brings us to the end of our open session. Other than the municipal roundtable, any of the elected officials like to add anything before we go into a closed session? No. Okay, then I have a motion. Be it resolved that pursuant to the Public Libraries Act, RSO 1990. Section P44, subsection 16.1, the Haliburton Library County Board enters into a closed session for the following reasons: personal matters about an identifiable individual. Personnel matters about an identifiable individual. Could I have a mover for that motion, please? Cease. Thank you. And second by Adele. Okay. So I'd ask the staff to depart. Thank you. And we will stay in camera for a closed session. I don't think it'll be very long, so don't go far, folks.
If you could please accept the invitation to the breakout room, that'd be great.
Yep, I'm going to do that right now. Moved by Lisa, seconded by Paul, that be it resolved that the November 8th, 2023 regular meeting of the Haliburton County Library Board now adjourn. All in favor? Carried.